W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye. I hate goodbyes from childhood, but then that's childhood trauma. My name is Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin, the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, that is coming out from under quarantine and coming back into the color yellow, as they say. And we're hoping, based upon what the CDC is now advising, that things will be better as far as the challenge that was facing the country for the last year, dealing with the COVID-19 virus. And I believe we could have reached this point a year ago had we had far better minds at work in the White House. I don't feel that this dark journey that we have been on needed to have been as long or as deadly as it has been. But unfortunately, that was the way that we have had to travel. And now, with a sensible hand on the rudder of the government, we appear to be going into safer waters. And for that, we are grateful to the Biden administration. I am not a groupie, and I am not everything you do is right with me or my country, right or wrong. But I must give this man, Mr. Biden, his kudos for standing up and doing the right thing at the right time during this terrible period in the nation's history. Anytime you can paralyze the entire economy, put everybody almost out of work except essential workers, that's a very dire and terrible and terrifying time. I used to tell somebody that you need not fear the people who ran into the building. That's not what terrorized. To be terrified is when you can't pay your note, can't pay your bills. Now that's terror and ain't got no job. Now that's real terror in this capitalistic system. This offering that you are viewing or looking at or listening to, hopefully, is entitled "It's Time," and it is always time for social justice, and that involves, of course, environmental justice, and it must also involve economic justice, because we live in a capitalistic system. And like it or not, whether we accept it or not, it is the system that we have inherited, and hopefully we can revamp it, improve it, reform it. But at the present time, it is the economy, stupid, that we have to deal with, because that's what we have to live in. If you're going to get a drink of water, the water might be free, but they're going to charge you for the cup, charge you for the ice. And most of us in California have two water systems. We have the bottled water that we buy at the store or have delivered to our home, and then we have the regular public system water that we are likewise paying for. We must be fools. We're paying for two water systems because we don't trust one and don't trust the other one. But such is the economic journey, or such is the economic realities that we are confronted with here in this nation. Why do we have two water systems? And why is the water in Flint, Michigan filled with lead? And why is the water in Centerville, Mississippi undrinkable? Because of the fact that raw sewage has entered into the line. Why is there fracking in Inglewood, California, that gets closer and closer to the water table? All of these types of dangers, fears, anxieties, and realities you and I are forced to deal with, and far beyond that, there's the massive universal existential problem of climate change. That is a reality whether Mr. Trump did not want to acknowledge it or admit it or speak it or not, did not take it away. You can't close your eyes and wish death away. You're going to have to deal with it. Yes, indeed. You can't close your eyes and wish trouble gone when trouble is all around you. You're going to have to confront and deal with that trouble. And so, with maturity rather, and with intellect and with understanding and with all the things that God may choose to grant us in order to combat and grapple with the climate change situation. Realizing, of course, that the greatest contributor to climate change, to the condition of the climate, has not been China, which has only recently become a world superpower, but it has been the United States of America and the so-called Western civilized nations that have polluted not only the United States, but in all other countries where we have gone pillaging and searching for oil and taking all of the resources and just polluting the ground and polluting the soil and polluting the rivers, not only of this country but of the other countries that we not only invaded but that we also sought to colonize in our own subtle American imperialistic fashion. And so we have these things to confront: environmental justice and economic justice. Economic justice in this nation must always involve acknowledgement of the historic crime committed against the first citizens of this continent, the first natives, the Native Americans who inhabited this part of the world when the Europeans came here. And then following upon that evil Holocaust was the ongoing Holocaust of the enslavement and the selling and the merchandising of black people from their homeland into this homeland, into this country rather, under some doctrine of manifest destiny. There was no doctrine of manifest destiny. There was just a doctrine of death. You got it, I want it, I got a gun, I'm going to take it from you. That's the only way the European attained anything in the world. He stole it. Actually, the European has never invented anything or created anything. He's always stolen or plagiarized or usurped or supplanted. And those are harsh questions, harsh statements that nobody wants to acknowledge or hear. But those are the realities that we are confronted with more and more as the nation continues to age and unfortunately has to come to grips with the stains of its guilty past. And in order to move forward, of course, we are going to have to confront that guilt and confront and acknowledge, not just like in some apology, but in some restorative and reparational restitution that will begin to make whole the people who have been injured, wounded, harmed of their heritage, harmed culturally, harmed economically, harmed of what they would have been had you not interfered with them. Our reparation scripture is to be found in the book of Deuteronomy, 15th chapter, beginning at verse number 12. You hear me read it every week, and I continue to read it because as a good teacher, I find that it is a good thing to stick with what is solid and provable. It says in Deuteronomy chapter 15, beginning at verse 12, "And if thy brother, an Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years. Then in the 7th year thou shalt let him or her go free from thee. And when thou sendest him or her out free from thee, thou shalt not let him or her go away empty. Thou shalt furnish him or her liberally. That's, the conservatives hate the word liberal. Out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give, not sell, not loan, or lease, or rent. It says, thou shalt give unto them. And that is what sticks in the craw of the capitalists, of the options traders, of the stockbrokers, of the merchandisers of this world, of this bloody land. They don't want to give a crippled crab a crutch. They don't want to give a cancer patient a cancer cure. No, they don't want to do that. They want you to pay through the nose and continuously and perpetually for not cure, but for merely for treatment. And so this points out another flaw in the capitalistic system that we are gung-ho to uphold and to perpetuate, and it has been perpetuated here and now all over the world. I remember being sent into Vietnam under the under the banner, rather, you're going to make the world safe for democracy, stop the spread of communism. Well, it wasn't, we didn't make the world safe for democracy, we made the world safe for capitalism. The same with World War I and the same with World War II. And so democracy became synonymous and identified with capitalism. We have yet to have a democratic government. We never practiced democracy from the origin of this nation. It's always been kleptocracy as it relates to taking the land from the people who were there. Homicide, murder, genocide, yes, exterminate. Go back and read the records and the dispatches and the missives and the letters sent by the various officers in the cavalry and in the army of the United States, and their whole point was extermination. They were out to exterminate the Indians. Andrew Jackson, President Andrew Jackson, was a brutal butcher, and who massacred and who slaughtered and waded through the blood of many a poor Indian village. And we use the word Indian advisedly, Columbus Indian, because of the fact of the error that your brother Columbus made, thinking he had reached India when he was really in Hispaniola, or in Haiti, as it were. And as a result, this confusion continues to plague and to beset the world and the world system. We're still teaching that Columbus was a hero and that he was a great navigator. But when true history is taught, we find that he was neither courageous nor adept at navigation. He was quite a ways off in Haiti from reaching the continent or the country of India, which I had a witness here. And so we have this week a very pressing matter in the state of Georgia and in the state of Texas. They have passed a voter suppression laws that cut down in the state of Georgia. They're going to cut down the Sunday souls to the polls to 2 Sundays only, and they're restricting absentee balloting, and they're making it illegal and a crime punishable by a fine and imprisonment. That if I'm in the line and I've been in there a long time and I'm thirsty and you want to bring me some water, they have made it illegal for you to bring me some water in the state of Georgia when I'm in the line to vote. And you know how long those lines were in this last election. According to the statistic from the last election, you had more people voting than had ever voted in the history of the nation, I think since 1909. I've got some, it was a beautiful election. People talk about Donald Trump got 74 million votes, but you know, they got to talk about the fact that the winner got 81 million votes. And this was a very, the 2020 election rather was a very pivotal election, and a lot of people came out to vote. The 2020 election had the highest turnout rate since the 1900 presidential election. 7 of the 10 states where turnout rose the most conducted their elections entirely or mostly by mail. The percentage of black voters casting their ballots by mail more than doubled from about 18% of black voters in 2016 to an estimated 38% in 2020. It jumped from 18% to 38%. You hear me? All right. That's a lot of increase. That's far more. That's way more than voted for President Barack Obama. And as a result, like clockwork, the pushback begins. That's why you can't never spend no time rejoicing, celebrating. You got to get ready for the fight because the enemy is always coming in at another crack in the wall. And so like overnight, thanks be to Shelby v. Holder being lost in the Supreme Court. States like Arizona, Iowa, Florida, Wisconsin, and Georgia, and most notoriously, they have pending legislation which would require voters to submit photocopies of their identification twice when seeking to vote by mail, bar election officials from affirmatively mailing absentee ballots, and in the state of Texas, it would place restrictions on drop boxes for returning the ballots, and in a big state like Texas, they want to have one drop box in the city of Houston, in Harris County. And you got millions of people voting and living in Harris County. So you can see where the restrictions would be felt. And all of these things have been based upon Donald Trump's big lie. And I guess if he had not had white privilege, nobody would have believed that lie. But he was able to perpetuate and reiterate and recapitulate and repeat that lie so many times that he has all of the stalwarts in the Republican Party parroting that same lie. That propaganda that the election, that he won the election, that the election was stolen. And yet you can't find no evidence where any state or municipality where he lost that there was any voter record voting discrepancies. Quite to the contrary, he lost fair and square. And if he was a man, he'd just pull up his pants, accept his loss, and move on. After all, when he defeated Hillary Clinton, that's what she did. She didn't stand around bemoaning. She licked her wounds. She cried in private, put on a happy face, and kept on going. But this Donald Trump, oh, he's worse than a baby. He's worse than a kid. But the problem is, he has lured to his side and attracted to his camp millions of others who think like him. And you and I know both that they don't really think that, but they are white supremacists. And they are so afraid of being displaced in the coming decades, and that they're holding on to the last vestiges of white supremacy, white dominance that they can hold on to. And they're not going down without a fight. They're not giving up their privileges without a fight. But you must remember that Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, was able to flip Georgia and flip Arizona. And that is what helped him to win. So the tide is turning, is changing. And no, the white supremacists don't like it, the Proud Boys, the MAGA crowd, all of those other white supremacist types. And they're not going down without a fight. We come to find out now that there are 300, mind you, 361 voter suppression bills in 47 states. And there are only 50 states in the union. 47 of the 50 states have written voter suppression bills, as many of them as onerous or even more onerous than the bill just passed in the state of Georgia. And likewise, the bill that was passed in Texas, where in the dark of night, these governors signed these bills into law. In Georgia, they didn't even let the news media in. They only wanted one little propaganda sheet to come in, and that was the Fair and Balanced Fox News, which is an oxymoron all by itself. And don't take this lightly, because this is going to have far-reaching effects. I say unto you, my brothers and my sisters, we cannot afford to fail to pass H.R. 1 and H.R. 4, which are pending in the Congress of the United States of America. One would help to reinstate those sections of the Voting Rights Act that were carved out and neutered, spayed and neutered is a word, I could use another word, by the John Roberts Court back there in Shelby v. Holder. And it would reinstate those sections so that the teeth and the power and the strength of the Voting Rights Act would finally be brought back to bear. Because you can see that Alabama and Georgia and Texas and all of those retrograde states are not going to allow black people to vote unmolested, unhindered in their respective jurisdiction. And if we allow 47 states to pass these voter suppression laws, we'll be another generation getting out from under the new Jim Crow. And because if they start eliminating absentee voter and they instate this business of voter ID, where you got to have a certain type of ID, whereas a hunter can use his hunting license, but a college student cannot use their school identification license to vote, then you can see that there's going to be a decided skewing and an imbalancing in those who have the ability to vote going forward. And that is just what the Republican Party argued in the case that went before the Supreme Court, in which the advocate for the Republican Party, when being questioned by the judges on the Supreme Court, acknowledged quite frankly, they said if we don't do these things, we won't win. And so we have to be mindful. We have to be vigilant. We have to be dutiful. We have to be on our case. As I get ready to wrap up my little brief little diatribe, in the state of Oklahoma, Governor Stitt, in his great wisdom, has interfered with the education system there in Oklahoma. If you study history, you know that one of the main ways of controlling people is to control their education. That's why I continue to disagree with those who said that racism is not systemic. Yes, it's been institutionalized, it's been normalized, it's been legitimized, it's in our custom, it's in our practices, and it is in our law. That our law is one of the greatest tools and greatest avenues by which the society is by which we control the social structure. I was reading critical race theory, and they were talking about those very facts about and a quotation by Oliver Wendell Holmes himself, the late Supreme Court Justice, who said that the life of the law is not its logic, but it is its experience. That, in other words, these laws that are passed are not based upon logic. They're not based upon truth. They are based upon the custom. They are based upon the prevailing politics. And as a result, you can see why we have to continue our fight. Because systemic racism is historical, it's cultural, it's institutional, it's interpersonal. It is so subtle that you don't immediately see it or grasp it at all times, but yet its presence is there. That disparity, that historic disparity that made Thurgood Marshall say in Brown, ask the question in Brown v. Board arguments, that why is it that it is only the Negro, out of all the multitudes of people that are in this country, why is it that this practice of separate is only imposed upon the Negro? Why is that? And Governor Stitt does not want the language or the curriculum or the syllabus that is being taught in the state of Oklahoma to begin to push back against the lies, against the miseducation of generations, and to begin to point out the effect of systemic racism has had on our history, has had on our education, has had on our medical establishment, has had on our housing establishment, has had its tentacles and its influence in every institution, regardless. Talk about the states, the newspaper, the publishing has been brutal in years gone by against black people. Science was brutal in its attempt to teach the language that of the inferiority of the black man and the superiority of the white man. Systemic racism has permeated all of those various disciplines, and it's only been lately, in the last maybe 10, I wouldn't say 20 years, that as a result of the research and the study of our learned scholars, and a lot of them now are academics, that we have a more clear view of what really American history is all about. Again, I'm praying for you that you may overcome this pandemic. We're praying for our brothers and our sisters that are working in these thankless jobs. And I say again, as I always say, while you're young, If those folks don't want to pay you, stop working for them. Get you something else to do. Thank you, Doc. We're out of here.